Everything was perfect. Neil had a loving family with his wife Anna and a lovely daughter Maria. Every weekend, they would go out to the bustling market and enjoy the culture. This Sunday was no exception. Oranges were Maria's favourite, so Neil had to buy a basket. By 8, they were all exhausted, and when their shoes kicked off and their heads hit their pillow, they instantly dozed asleep. They jumped out of bed. Flames engulfed the trees nearby and criminals ran psychotically down the street. Without delay, Neil grabbed his family, packed their valuables and ran downstairs. Tears trickled down Maria's cheek, but stopped when Neil hugged her. A scream nearby snapped Neil back to reality. He grabbed his keys and rushed his family into the car. Neil knew they couldn't live like this. This had to change. Neil walked to the counter and asked for 3 tickets to the next flight, but the workers said that the only tickets available were $4,000. Neil didn't have that kind of money lying around. He thought desperately for a solution. Anything valuable he could get rid of. After discussing with the worker, she said that they could have 2 tickets in exchange for his beat-up Ford. Neil hesitated but agreed. He told his wife to go with Maria. She argued, but Neil didn't budge. Neil told Maria that he would join them in the next flight and see them there, and Maria nodded. Neil waved as he watched his family leave. Anna waved goodbye and abruptly the door closed. Sadness overwhelmed him. Maria looked back as they flew off, unknowing of what his father had just done for her. While he entered an old rusty taxi, Anna and Maria climbed into a sleek chariot. When he paid with his last pennies, she paid in cash. As he looked over his shattered house, they entered their new cottage. He stared at the ruins of the house. They unpacked their luggage. In unison, they found a picture frame of them together. That very first night, they both went to sleep gazing at the stars, wondering if they would meet again. Determined to reunite with his family, Neil put his best suit on and got ready. He returned to the market where they were last together, this time in search of a job. He asked numerous times, but was declined just as many. Then he met Darren, an old farmer, who has been on the lookout for a worker in his farm. They each hit the jackpot. Darren offered him a wage and a place to stay. Neil agreed. The moment he arrived at the farm, Neil changed and got to work, eager to prove Darren his worth. Filled with hope, he worked tirelessly. Every hour of every day of every month, he was in the field slaving away. After an eternity, the day had come. Neil met Darren at the door. Darren thanked them for all he had done on the farm. They were both endlessly thankful for each other. Darren offered to help him to the airport. Neil grinned, entering his truck and zooming off to the airport. Neil stepped out of Darren's truck and waved, giving his final thanks before buying a ticket to New York, where he and Anna had planned to meet. Neil sat down, gleefully eyeing the ticket in his hands. As he boarded the plane and took a seat, anticipation coursed through him. When Neil walked to the main entrance, he had excitement like never before. He scanned through the crowd for any sign of Anna or Maria. He cried their names out. Neil looked around longer, yelling their names again. Almost an hour ticked by without a sight of them. Neil sat down in defeat, but then a glimmer of Anna's perfect hair glistened through the flock of tourists. Neil was too stunned to speak or move, but he didn't have to. Anna and Maria had already rushed up to him, and without words, they pulled each other in tightly, arms wrapped around one another. They stood there in silence, never wanting to be anywhere else.